I don't think there'll be anything else apart from that just jingle in your ear. It's coming home, it's coming home.
So after 4 matches, it's even Stevens with 1 to play. This is a place to be, following all the action. Myself, John Norman, Gareth Batty as well, will be looking back at the action from India's 8-run win over England. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
I think you can just say, well, India were the better team on the day. I think they batted beautifully. I think their bowling, when they came to it, they had their plans, and then executed their plans. The slow ball bounces were a feature of that. Bowling slightly wider, so the batsmen couldn't swing from their arc. They had to go and fetch it. You can have all these plans, but you've got to execute them. Fair play, well played, India. They were the better team on the day for me.
So India worthy winners, according to Matt Pryor, who's part of the commentary team. And, it was one of those T20 games that kind of went one way and the other. But when England 3 down, 50 to get, 2 set batsmen at the crease, India did brilliantly well to get back into the match and actually kind of ease through the gears and win the game relatively comfortable in that final over.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen them earlier in the series being brilliant at the death, and they were absolutely magnificent today. I think it goes back to the Thakur over when he came back for his 3rd, and he took the 2 wickets in 2 balls. He was on a hat-trick, and they weren't just easy wickets, they were proper wickets. Ben Stokes, great piece of captaincy. It was Sharma at the time who'd taken over from Kohli, who'd gone off, got his mid-off straighter, off-cutter, drilled it straight at him, caught, skill in that, execution in that, and then the wider, out on the wide line, again off-spinner going across Morgan, enticing him into extra cover, but got it fat and got it square. I think it was Washington actually on the boundary, Washington Sundar. Brilliant bowling, and then you're on a hat-trick, and you've kind of just blown the game open at that point.
Yeah, it was brilliant stuff. Some of India's less heralded individuals beating England's big guns, because it was the Roys, the Bairstows and the Stokes that scored the runs. It was the Archers and the Woods that bowled brilliantly, but India's still getting through. Plenty to talk about. There were a couple of controversial off-field umpire decision moments in that first innings as well, so plenty to get our teeth into.
Rashid in again, he's going to use his feet, he's missed it, he's missed a googly, and he's stumped by a 1/3 of the length of the pitch. Joss Buttler has his man.
The first time Virat Kohli's ever been out-stumped in a T20, it was quite a moment, and at that moment, Sharma had gone early, Kohli had gone early, and it exposed the middle and latter order. Questions were going to be asked, especially with Archer and Wood bowling so brilliantly. Well, if questions were asked, India's batsmen, the likes of Surya Kumar, Yadav playing in just his 2nd match, as well as Rishabh Pant as well, and Shreyas Iyer, well, they had the answers.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite stunning, some of the stroke play in there. As soon as Kohli got done running down the wicket, Adil Rashid, a googly gone through the gate, beautiful piece of bowling, you think, whoa, the captain's never been stumped before in a T20 international. Or, you start questioning how this is going to pan out from an India point of view. Forget it. Yadav, first ball, bang, smack, 6 out of the ground, and he never looked back. He looked as though it was his 100th game, not his 2nd and first time at the crease. Shreyas Iyer, beautiful. First or second ball, back foot, punched it through extra cover. Wonderful technician, lovely, quality player. Both of those guys great, and then as we see, he's not even the young pretender anymore. Rishabh Pant just did some things that you will never ever see on a normal cricket field. The whip over square leg with no feet. Had no right to do it. It disappears into row Z. It was quite spectacular batting and brilliant from 3 youngish players in this already pretty quality Indian team.
Well, at the start of the match, after losing the toss, Virat Kohli said even if he'd won it, he would have decided to bat first. He wanted to see if his team could go on to win. I don't know if that's true, but he knows now, doesn't he? They can. And it was good batting, decent score, by far the largest first innings score on this track in this series. And then when England came in to bat, Buttler going early was obviously a big blow for England. But even at that stage, you could see the batting second wasn't quite as easy compared to batting first as we've seen in the series up to this point.
Yeah, I don't think the batting really changed throughout. I don't think the pitch changed. I don't think the skill sets of the bowlers changed. England in the first 10 overs bowled lots of slow balls, and it was difficult for the Indian batsmen. And India flipped that over. They were incredibly smart. Pandya, wow, I think he went for 16 off his 4 overs, 13 dot balls or something. I mean, that is incredible in an international T20 when 185 runs were scored. I mean, it was a flat wicket, it was a good pitch, and they were very, very smart about how they went to the business end of it with India. They had good plans. They were looking to go short at Milan and then slower balls, trying to take his one-pace hitting out of it. They did the similar sort of things as they went on throughout the game with different options. Right at the end, they went wide at Archer because he's so dangerous smacking it down the ground. Just when you needed it, they had very good plans and they executed so well, the Indian bowlers.
And how will Thakur feel tonight? Because it was those 2 wickets and 2 balls that you made mention of, but there was a bit of a wobble in the final over, wasn't there? He was hit for 6, there was a couple of wides, and suddenly England, who were needing, pretty much 6 a ball, were within touching distance, but he came back and he saw the win out for India.
Let's look at his role within the team. He bats at the death when all the pressure's on to hit the ball out of the ground from ball 1. There's no look at it. And he does. He comes in from ball 1. He did it today, late cut for 4. Brilliant batting. So difficult. Skill set so high. Then he has to open the bowling. Balls in the first power play. So difficult. 2 fielders out. And then he has to take all the pressure bowling at the death when all the pressure's on him. Every single part of the game that he's involved in is under huge pressure. Wow, did he come to the top. He was magnificent today. That slower ball that he gets deep in his hand and cuts over it is magnificent. The best thing and the way it's set up, he was bowling at England's left-handers. England's brilliant left-handers at that, but he just made it so difficult for them, and he came to the top, and he would have learnt so much from a pressure situation. Those 2 wides actually could have been a godsend for him moving forward in his career, the way he came back from it. I thought it was magnificent.
Now, if India had gone on to lose this match, there would have been a couple of incidents in the first innings when England were batting that may have been mentioned a little bit more than they're going to, in terms of the use of the third umpire and the two decision-making moments, which went the way of England and possibly the way they went the way of India during the Test series.
Sam Curran in again and again. This is down the leg side. Oh, and that's brilliantly held. What a catch by Milan at fine leg, diving in.
So on this occasion, the third ump went the way of England. There was 2 incidents. One, a catch in the deep from David Milan. Soft signal out. I'm not sure how the umpire can see from his position, to be honest, but possibly not enough to be able to overturn it from the third umpire. But it did look like the ball had been grounded, in fairness. So that went the way of England. And then there was another incident, Adil Rashid taking a catch on the boundary. And essentially, the umpire on field had to give a decision about whether the back of his heel had touched the advertising sponge. The on-field call was out. Again, not enough evidence to overturn it. But Gareth Baddy, how can an umpire give a decision like that on field? There's no way they can see it.
Yeah, we've got to be very careful because I don't want to start diminishing the responsibility of the on-field umpires. They make that line call. They see what they give a decision on what they see, and the brilliance of having the cameras is you might be able to see with Adil Rashid on the board that moves. You might see a change in light, a change in reflection, a change in crease on it. There wasn't anything there, so you stick with the on-field. I think that's perfectly right, and I don't think there was too much uproar about it. The problem with Milan's was, and if you watched it just real time, he gets underneath the ball, but his hands split and his fingers sort of just creep underneath. There's a still where it looks like the ball is actually on the ground. I think for everybody that's caught a catch similar to that, you would say you've shuffled enough underneath and actually the ball is on your fingers here. But because of the millionths of seconds that are through the bit of video, it looks like the ball is on the ground or on the deck or not in control. Difficult, really difficult to break it down. And you have to be an expert in that technology to understand whether it's genuinely out or not. You can understand Kohli being disappointed. You could also understand that Milan thinks it's out.
Okay, well, it wasn't that controversial because India won. There was also some moments of real humour.
Jordan in again, and oh, that's just flicked disdainfully away into the seats. What a shot that is by Rishabh Pant.
I mean, this is incredible. From fact, he's not moved his feet.
You'll always hear about batsmen with very little foot movement, okay? And then there was Rishabh Pant. I've never seen a batsman with no foot movement hit a 6 in that manner. It was an absolutely glorious moment. It had us all like whooping and wailing, didn't it? When it pays off, it looks brilliant and funny. When it doesn't, you start to question technique. But what hand-eye coordination, what wrists, What outrageous ability and belief in your own ability to do such a crazy thing.
Yeah, and it goes to how you get your body weight just enough that side of the ball to allow your wrist just to flick it up and over. I mean, it's incredible that you stay so still, and then not actually panic before contact. It's incredible. But as we saw, balls later, he tries the same thing and it hits middle stump, and Archer was very smart. I think it was Archer coming around the wicket that hits the middle stump, and you don't look quite as cool when that happens. But the skill levels of that young man are frightening. He has the world at his feet.
Absolutely. Even if he doesn't move them that much. Let's hear from the England all-rounder Ben Stokes.
We take situations like that, we'll go away as individuals, we'll assess it, and we'll become better players from it.
And personally, for you, was it good just to have a little bit more time at the crease? I mean, you've come in quite late in the innings on occasion in this series. You went ahead of the captain, Owen Morgan, today. I mean, not did you prefer it, but did you feel you benefited from just having a little bit more time to get into your game?
I think me and Morgs, especially in the T20 format, we've been quite versatile with at 5 and 6, and if we lose some early wickets, Morgs makes the call whether it's me or him. And I think if you look at it, when you're chasing a total like that, Morgs is a much better player to be able to come in and hit those big shots straight away. So there's a lot of thinking that goes into it, whereas he feels that I'm better off at starting an innings if there's longer to play when we're batting. So look, me and him are very versatile, and Morgs makes the call. Who goes in who goes in a situation if it's me or him.
You told me a story about when Kumar Sangakkara was in the dressing room at Surrey, and during that time, some of the young guns coming through, he took a couple of them to one side after a victory for Surrey, but where one of the batsmen had got out with about 5 to 10 overs to go. The job just about done. And he took them to one side and said, "You need to be there at the end. Okay, that's it. You need to make sure that you are there at the end, either hitting the winning runs or watching the winning runs. That is pretty much your job." And that's pretty much what Ben Stokes is saying, isn't it? When you're in a position, Jason Roy hit 40, Bairstow's set in 20s, Stokes as well in the 40s, with the target being what it is, you just make sure you're there at the end, England win the game, and they win the series.
Yeah, and it's almost the responsibility of the new guy coming in to take the pressure off the guy that's set by being busy, by nicking the singles, by hopefully hitting the boundaries, so that person, whichever individual it is, in this case, he mentioned himself and he mentioned Bairstow being there at the last ball of the game. Had that have happened, you would think percentage-wise England win more often than they lose, percentage-wise. But it's a very difficult thing because 2020 is a high-risk game. And it's so tough to get the balance between high risk smacking out the ground and then not taking enough risk to affect the scoreboard. I think it's incredible and a measure of the man that's where he went and took the responsibility himself. And it's the measure of this England team. I think for periods of time they've wanted to take that responsibility on. And we've heard Virat Kohli in the series suggest the same thing for him and his team. It's not rocket science. You want your main players to be there at the end to take the pressure off some of the younger players so then they can maybe whoop a few out of the ground and run off Roy the Rover stuff. But fantastic.
We set out with a decider. Matt Pryor, former England wicketkeeper, part of talkSPORT 2's coverage, said this is what both captains want. 2 or 1 to play. It's a one-off game. It's the World Cup final. That is how Owen Morgan is going to set this up now. So how do you see him going? Same team pretty much. And how do you think India are going to go? Is they going to continue tinkering with their team?
Yeah, I wouldn't like to speculate on India because they've been quite varied in their approach, which I think has kept England guessing a little bit. We know that they balance a lot of their play on stats. England will be exactly the same. I don't see any changes unless there are niggles or injuries around. So Wood, they'll be wanting to freshen up, and he's been marvellous in this series. But no, I don't think there'll be anything else apart from that just jingle in your ear. It's coming home, it's coming home, as Matty said. It's going to be, what a game it turns out to be. Everything's on. It'll be brilliant. It'll be an amazing game.
Brilliant. Well, you can follow all the action on talkSPORT 2. Gets underway at 12:30 on Saturday. But don't forget, this is the place to be, following all the action. And if you got this far, you can like, you can subscribe, and you can leave your comments below this screen. But we are set up for a humdinger after India lost the toss, won the game by 8 runs to set up the decider on Saturday. I hope you join us following the action here on Outside Edge.